Doumbouya and Traoré join forces. 50 foreign mining licenses cancelled. In a historic and bold move, Guinea's President Mamady Doumbouya and Burkina Faso's Captain Ibrahim Traoré have joined forces to cancel over 50 foreign mining licenses, sending a powerful message to the world. Africa is reclaiming its natural resources. This video breaks down how this revolutionary decision is shaking the foundations of foreign exploitation in West Africa, marking a new era of Pan-African unity, economic independence, and anti-colonial resistance. What you'll discover in this video: why Doumbouya and Traoré are canceling foreign mining contracts, how this affects Western mining companies and global markets, reactions from the African public and international media, the significance of this alliance in Africa's geopolitical awakening, what this means for Africa's future economic sovereignty. This is not just a political decision, it's a movement. Africa is rising, and its leaders are standing firm to protect African wealth for African people. Join the discussion. Should more African leaders cancel foreign contracts and reclaim national resources? Like, comment, subscribe, share to amplify the message of African self-determination. Why Doumbouya and Traoré are canceling foreign mining contracts. Mamady Doumbouya of Guinea and Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, both military leaders who assumed power through coups, Doumbouya in September 2021 and Traoré in September 2022, have taken bold steps to cancel or threaten to cancel foreign mining contracts. Their actions stem from a shared vision of asserting national control over their country's vast mineral resources, which have historically been exploited by foreign companies, often with minimal benefits to local populations. Doumbouya Guinea is a major producer of bauxite, holding the world's largest reserves, and has significant iron ore, gold, and diamond deposits. Doumbouya has emphasized compliance with contractual obligations, instructing his government to withdraw permits from mining companies that fail to meet legal commitments. For instance, on May 9, 2025, he directed the revocation of permits for non-compliant firms, signaling a push for stricter oversight and renegotiation of contracts to prioritize Guinean interests. The junta has also centralized control over the mining sector, with Doumbouya retaining significant authority, as seen in the restructuring of the mining ministry's prerogatives. The state-owned Sogopami has seen increased revenues, particularly from bauxite, and is now directly selling minerals, often to Chinese buyers, indicating a shift towards state-driven resource management. Burkina Faso, a significant gold producer, has seen Traoré announce plans to revoke mining permits from some foreign companies to boost domestic gold production. On October 7, 2024, Traoré stated intentions to cancel permits, though companies like Fortuna Mining clarified that existing permits were not targeted. Traoré's policies focus on self-reliance, reducing dependency on Western companies, and fostering local processing industries, such as gold refining. His broader economic strategy includes rejecting loans from international financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank, viewing them as tools of neo-colonial control. Shared motivations. Both leaders are driven by a desire to address historical inequities in resource extraction, where foreign companies have reaped massive profits while local communities remain impoverished. Their actions align with a broader regional trend, as seen in Mali and Niger, where juntas have also confronted foreign mining interests. This reflects a rejection of neo-colonial economic structures and a push for sovereignty over natural resources, inspired by Pan-Africanist ideals and a demand for fairer terms in global trade. How this affects Western mining companies and global markets. The cancellation or renegotiation of foreign mining contracts in Guinea and Burkina Faso has significant implications for Western mining companies and global markets, particularly given the critical minerals these countries supply. Impact on Western mining companies. Guinea. Western companies like Alcoa and Rio Tinto, major players in Guinea's bauxite sector, face increased scrutiny and risk of permit revocations if they fail to meet contractual obligations. The junta's push to centralize control and favor state-owned entities or non-Western partners, e.g., Chinese firms, could reduce Western companies' market share. For example, Guinea's government has favored Monaco Resources for bauxite marketing, sidelining less experienced Western firms. The uncertainty following Doumbouya's 2021 coup has already caused instability, affecting investment decisions. Burkina Faso. Traoré's threats to revoke permits led to a sharp decline in shares of gold miners with projects in Burkina Faso on the Toronto Stock Exchange on October 7, 2024. Companies like Barrick Gold, which faced a $250 million gold seizure by Mali's junta, illustrate the risks Western firms face in the region. Such actions increase operational risks, including potential asset seizures and higher compliance costs. Broader trend. the Sahel region's shift away from Western partners, as seen in Mali's disputes with Resolute Mining and Niger's seizure of a French uranium mine, signals a challenging environment for Western firms. The Alliance of Sahel States, AES, comprising Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, is seeking alternative partners like Russia and China, reducing reliance on Western capital. Global market implications, supply chain disruptions. Guinea supplies over 20% of the world's bauxite, critical for aluminum production, while Burkina Faso is a key gold producer. Contract cancellations could disrupt supply chains, leading to price volatility. For instance, cobalt and lithium, critical for the energy transition, are already in high demand, and disruptions in Africa could exacerbate global shortages. The IMF projects critical minerals could add 12% to Africa's GDP by 2050, but instability may deter investment, tightening supply. Shift to non-Western buyers. Both countries are increasingly engaging with China, which has invested heavily in African minerals, e.g., $4.2 billion in FDI from 2003 to 2020. Guinea's direct bauxite sales to China and Burkina Faso's focus on local gold production could redirect mineral flows away from Western markets, impacting global pricing and availability. Investment hesitancy. The perception of political risk in junta-led nations has paused investment decisions, as noted by risk advisory firm JS Held. Western investors may hesitate due to fears of nationalization or contract disputes, potentially ceding ground to competitors from China, Russia, or the UAE. Reactions from the African public and international media. African public sentiment. Support for sovereignty. Across Africa, particularly among the youth, there is strong support for Doumbouya and Traoré's actions, seen as a bold stand against neo-colonial exploitation. Traoré's rejection of Western influence and focus on self-reliance resonate deeply, with his statement, "Africa doesn't need the World Bank, IMF, Europe, or America," becoming a rallying cry. Social media posts on X reflect this sentiment, with users like @Ibrahim_Traoré praising the revocation of 46 mining licenses in Guinea as part of a broader push for resource control. Local frustrations. In Guinea, however, public frustration is also evident due to Doumbouya's delayed transition to civilian rule, with protests in Conakry in January 2025 demanding democratic reforms. While some support his mining reforms, others see his tight grip on power as authoritarian, with billboards and propaganda campaigns reinforcing his control. In Burkina Faso, Traoré's industrial and agricultural initiatives have bolstered his popularity, though security challenges from insurgencies temper public enthusiasm. Regional inspiration. The actions of both leaders inspire movements in Mali, Niger, and Senegal, where similar demands for resource sovereignty are gaining traction. The African public increasingly views these moves as steps toward economic justice, challenging decades of exploitative contracts. International media reactions. Western media critique. Western outlets often frame these actions as destabilizing, emphasizing risks to investors and portraying junta-led policies as erratic. For example, coverage of Mali's disputes with Resolute Mining described the arrest of executives as unexpected and used terms like captivity, reflecting a neo-colonial bias that questions African governance. Similarly, Traoré's permit revocation threats were reported as causing market panic, focusing on losses for Western firms rather than local benefits, non-Western perspectives. Outlets like Al Jazeera celebrate these moves as assertions of sovereignty, arguing that Western media protect corporate interests by demonizing African governments. They highlight Mali's success in securing payments from Resolute Mining as a model for others, framing the trend as a push for fairness in resource extraction. Mixed narratives. Some international reports acknowledge the legitimacy of African demands for better terms but warn of economic fallout. The Atlantic Council notes that formalizing artisanal mining and promoting equitable partnerships could attract sustainable investment, but Western hesitancy persists due to perceived risks. The significance of this alliance in Africa's geopolitical awakening. The collaboration between Doumbouya and Traoré, alongside their counterparts in Mali and Niger through the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, marks a pivotal moment in Africa's geopolitical awakening. This alliance, formed after Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger exited ECOWAS in 2023, reflects a rejection of Western-dominated regional frameworks and a shift toward alternative partnerships. Challenging neo-colonial structures. The AES, led by junta leaders, prioritizes sovereignty and self-reliance, as seen in Burkina Faso's expulsion of French troops and media, and Guinea's muted criticism of France compared to its neighbors. This alliance signals a broader push to dismantle neo-colonial economic and military ties, with Traoré's defiance of the IMF and World Bank resonating across the continent. New partnerships. The AES is forging ties with non-Western powers like Russia and China. For example, Russian reinforcements were sent to Burkina Faso in June 2024 to bolster Traoré security, while Guinea's bauxite sales to China reflect a strategic pivot. These partnerships offer African nations leverage against Western dominance, though they risk replacing one form of dependency with another. Regional influence. The AES's actions inspire other African nations, such as Senegal and Ghana, to renegotiate mining and energy contracts. This collective push challenges the global economic order, demanding fairer terms and greater control over resources critical to the energy transition, like cobalt and lithium. Geopolitical implications. The alliance strengthens Africa's bargaining power in global markets, signaling that resource-rich nations will no longer accept exploitative deals. However, it also risks isolating these countries from Western investment and aid, potentially exacerbating economic challenges if new partnerships fail to deliver. What this means for Africa's future economic sovereignty. The moves by Doumbouya and Traoré are a significant step toward economic sovereignty, but they come with opportunities and challenges that will shape Africa's future. Opportunities. Resource control. By canceling or renegotiating contracts, Guinea and Burkina Faso aim to retain more wealth domestically, funding infrastructure, education, and industrialization. Burkina Faso's investments in tomato and cotton processing plants under Traoré exemplify this shift toward value-added industries. Regional momentum. The AES's model could encourage other African nations to assert control over their resources, potentially leading to a continent-wide push for equitable trade. Ghana's negotiations for a stake in the Akyem gold mine and Mali's success with Resolute Mining are examples of this trend. Global leverage. As demand for critical minerals grows, Africa's control over its resources positions it as a key player in the global energy transition, potentially attracting investment on better terms. Challenges. Investment risks. Contract cancellations and political instability deter Western investors, who fear nationalization or disputes. This could limit capital for exploration and development, as seen in Mali's disputes with Barrick Gold. Dependency on new partners. While rejecting Western dominance, reliance on China or Russia may create new vulnerabilities. China's strategic investments, while substantial, often prioritize its own interests, potentially limiting long-term sovereignty. Domestic governance. Both leaders face criticism for authoritarianism. Doumbouya's delayed democratic transition and Traoré's security challenges could undermine public support, risking instability that hampers economic reforms' long-term outlook. Achieving true economic sovereignty requires balancing resource nationalism with sustainable investment and governance reforms. Formalizing artisanal mining, as suggested by the Atlantic Council, could enhance local benefits and attract ethical investment. The success of these policies will depend on transparent governance, regional cooperation, and strategic partnerships that prioritize African interests.